over the new 8bitdo Ultimate 2 controller. Oh, bugger.
8bitdo. Do I need to say more? Do I need to say more? I don't.
So one of the things that separates this from the 2C and what makes the Ultimate is really this charging dock. So as you can see,
So the first thing you probably notice are the RGB lights around the joysticks itself and also around the power button.
I didn't get it with the 2C, but I think they kept on moving and improving, and that to me is what should be the 1.0.
I think this is, if you're on PC, it's kind of a no-brainer to get this over a first-party controller. It kind of kills it with features in every single way.
Is it a controller I'd recommend? Very easily so, but for very specific reasons.
This is both better than the 2C and the previous Ultimate.
Was the additional buttons they put on there. So that just adds to more customization and more flexibility on what you would like to do.
They are customizable. You're able to kind of go into the 8bitdo software, change it around. You can kind of play around. You're able to kind of customize that as well, depending on what you're playing. I can imagine you using this if you're playing a game like World of Warcraft with a controller. A lot of people do that. I do that as well sometimes.
There's certain hotkeys that maybe I don't want to use for some of my normal buttons that I could actually program using the L4 or R4.
And you can kind of assign a specific key to this. You can also assign certain kinds of macros. This can be useful in a lot of RPG games or anything that require you to kind of press multiple buttons at the same time.
The gyro? Wow, this is the only controller next to Blitz 2 that I've seen has such a good gyro. This is not a controller for aiming, in my opinion.
Alright, here we have the 8bitdo Ultimate. I bought two of these. It's been about a week since I've had them. And the reason I bought these is because I own a lot of controllers. And I kind of wanted to simplify the whole situation from me and my girlfriend. My PC is just my game console on the TV and I play on the couch. I wanted these to be the kind of I control everything kind of thing in the simplest way possible, because me and her actually play emulators, co-op games and stuff, and I figured, okay, this controller can almost do it all, at least in the simplest terms. I'll have a gyroscope for aiming, and these extra buttons would be really cool for, you know, setting up for games that don't have controller support. Because there's a lot of great games that don't have controller support. I expected a lot more than what they delivered here. And don't get me wrong, it is a good controller. It feels nice to hold. I love this style. The TMR sticks feel really good. I don't like Hall effect sticks that much. They feel very, very sensitive. It really is something that feels an X premium. But as far as the limitations on it, what you're getting is a Xbox controller with an RGB setup. And that's really all you're getting when you get one of these. It's sad because there's a lot of features on it that I really like. The charging dock, connect instantly to my PC without having to hold the button or make sure it's working or something. It's just a shame because I really, really like it. I don't want to return these, but when it comes to the software, that's where the issues lie. The first thing I'm kind of mad about is they advertise this thing and they don't say it directly. When you call something an Ultimate 2, you're kind of expecting the same features from the Ultimate 1, or at least their older controllers, on top of this thing, because this is their flagship device. And when you're missing features like, you know, not having a switch mode, you know, to be able to connect to a switch, or at least in my case, be able to change it to switch so I can have a proper gyroscope, so I can bind the keys to a mouse or keyboard, you're limited by what the software itself can do. And anybody that knows their weight in salt with a gyroscope knows that a gyro set to the right stick is ass. It doesn't matter how much you do with it. It doesn't matter what you finagle. Steam has been trying this for years with different configurations and different options. It never, ever, ever feels right. It has to be set to a mouse to get the full accuracy and effect. And it's sad because the gyro on this is not bad, but it still does not do as good as something that actually has a switch mode like this. This is one of their older controllers, and I actually bought one of these with 2 of these because I started to get into emulation again, and I was like, hey, that's cool. It's on sale. You know, maybe I'll have something cool, maybe the nostalgia stuff, except I can actually play other things with it, like the old PlayStation games. And I'll tell you right here, this thing does better performance-wise when it comes to aiming and shooting, the accuracy, connectivity features, than this thing does. You can put this into Switch mode. It has Hall effect sticks. It has Bluetooth that actually works pretty well. I don't understand, like, besides licensing stuff, why they're limiting this. So I'm gonna show you some of the software here and some of the stuff that pissed me off, and then I'll compare to some of the shooters I play and maybe show you some emulation and stuff, and I'll let you judge. So when you first connect this, and the first thing that kind of pissed me off, this thing constantly says to update, and I've already updated both the adapter and the controller, and it just constantly says to update. So right there, even if you go through update, it just does it again, and then it just keeps saying, oh, this is new. Right there, that's a confusion. Another confusing part is profiles. This doesn't really tell, you know, that you have to have a profile, because when you first start, it's blank. It doesn't tell you that you actually have to have a profile, and guess what? You do. You know, so you have to create one. In order to even access this. So like right there's, you know, strike number 2 with this software. The other thing when I looked at it, and this was a big one, was when you look at when you're rebinding these keys, you can only rebind them to face buttons or buttons that are already on the controller. Really, really cannot stress how infuriating this is to see when they advertise it, and when you have YouTube videos saying, oh, you can change these top buttons if you're playing World of Warcraft or whatever. I've seen so many videos say that you can remap these, and you can't. You can't remap it at all. Huge freaking letdown. Just massive. Because I play a lot of games that do not have controller support, and I have to use Steam to remap it. Steam cannot see the extra buttons on here. That's not 8bitdo's fault, but it'd be nice if it was in the software, at least to a point where I can change it to a keyboard command, and then I could tell the game itself that I want to do this ability with this keyboard. At least it'd be a workaround. Macros, to me, I guess great for someone that has combos and fighting games or stuff. Don't really care for it, honestly. They're useless because you're still mapping the same buttons to only what's available on the controller itself. The sticks, most of these settings are worthless. You know, just completely 100% worthless. I don't really care for these trigger stop things. These things here, I don't understand why people play like that. I never really cared for them when they first started coming out on really cheap ass freaking Mad Catz controllers. Just a stupid feature. The vibration levels are just by default all the way up, and I'm going to tell you right now, they don't feel that strong at all. They just RGB. This whole setting kind of pissed me off because it's not very nothing in this software is intuitive. None of it. Now, when you're in this software and you're trying to click different colors, and you're looking down at the controller and you're clicking different colors going, why isn't it changing? It says it looks green. It says green on the software, and you're looking down and it's still freaking white. You know, and I probably couldn't figure this out for a few days because I was already disgusted with the software. What you have to do, you got to swap this between what the background and the tracing part is. So if you do background thing, I'm just showing this because it pisses me off about how the software is set up. It's green now. Look at that. It's green. It's just a little quirk that pissed me off, and I almost returned them after this because I thought they were busted in the software. The gyro is the number one issue. I will not be using this thing. The only thing you could set the gyro to is in the software. That's it. That's all you could do. You can only map it to the sticks, and then you can only tell the software what you want the enable button to be. You can't even tell it to just leave it on. You have to have it set to a button to push or take off. Serious oversight. So when I tried my PlayStation 4 controller, this is how I had it set up, left trigger. So that's what I did with this. Sensitivity. This barely does anything, guys. When you first load this up, it's set to a 4 or 5, and I'll show you right now. It barely moves the controller. It barely moves it. It barely does anything. I will load up. Zombie Army. Why? This is one of the only games that lets you play with mouse and keyboard bindings and controller bindings at the same time, which is why I like to use this game as a setup. Plus, it has a really, really forgiving aim assist when it comes to gyroscope and controller configurations. But you can see it's the gyro is usable. See, you can use it, but set to 4. I'll show you right here, right now. Set to sensitivity 4. This is how much it moves. It's, my Steam controller would be spinning in circles with this much movement. This isn't comfortable. This isn't comfortable at all. But I'll show you for a little bit with this sensitivity, and then because you could see it struggling to get any speed out of it. It's like I said, the TMR sticks, they feel really good. They feel like old analog sticks, except it's got a higher polling rate. And you could tell. You could tell it's just slightly more accurate with the polling rate. But with the gyro, that's this fucking slow. And this is me just, and this is one of the things that, you get with a stick set to gyroscope. I almost have to freaking wait until they're in the crosshairs. So this is a, here, I'll show you. Here, this is a limitation on sticks with gyroscope. So you see how as I move this around, it's jumping. It's almost near impossible to get, and this gets worse with longer range shots. So in this game, there's moments where you got to kill snipers that are pretty far away, and you could see this thing is just jumping around. And this is a really low sensitivity. It just gets worse with higher. In fact, I'm gonna switch and show you. I'm gonna switch it back and show you a higher sensitivity. We're gonna crank this all the way to 10. Dead zone compensation. I've tried messing with that. It just seems to make that jumping even worse, as far as I could tell. And as you could tell, the sensitivity is not really helping the jumping. As you can see, it's jittering across the board. Steam actually has a compensation for this when Steam controllers do this. But you, like you said, you can't change this in the software. You can't change this in 8bitdo software. Now, if you're smooth with it like this, it seems to be okay. But as soon as you stop for a second and you try to get those precise shots, you're just jittering all over the place. You know, I'll show you a little bit more here. I fucking love this game, by the way, because it's I just love slower shooters that give you a horde mode, but. Like it's playable, but I can't get the accuracy I need. Look, it's just moving. It's just jittery, jumping up and down, back and forth. And anybody that tells you this gyro is okay is you know, I can tell that it can be. I can tell it can be, but it's not. And I don't know if this is a software issue from the videos that I've watched. They say that 8bitdo doesn't really change things like that, but you could see that it is working now. Third-person shooters, you don't really have to be that accurate with. That's one reason why I use this game as like a crutch for testing these new controllers out. Because you got a lot of targets to shoot at, you got to be really accurate. Like, if you don't shoot these things in the head, they will come back to life. So the next thing I want to show you is a game that I've been playing. Usually if I try to test a first-person game, I jump onto Call of Duty Zombies or something. Well, I don't know what's going on in Call of Duty, but it will not freaking start on my PC again. This happens with Activision. That's a different rant. I'm sick and tired of it. So let's exit this. And as you know, as you can see, for an Xbox controller, it's fine. You know, it runs really well as an Xbox controller. But you know, I can't, like I said, I can't change the buttons. I can't really do anything outside of fucking, you know, if it was just an Xbox controller. Now, this game does not have controller support at all, at least not right now. And even with a game that has, you know, no controller support, you're still getting a jittery stuff because the software is going through an analog medium for your mouse. You know, so let's see if I could show you this. So this time, got it. I am just moving this as slightly as I possibly can, and you could tell it is just like, it's just like with the other game. If you go smooth like this, and you can actually get some pretty accurate shots with it. Like if you go at a certain speed, you know, you can tell that polling rate is making a huge difference with accuracy, and that's the sad part. I want to have that, but because it's set to freaking sticks, you're not getting what you should. I'll show you again. I'm not even moving the controller, and it's just jumping around, because it can't compensate. And this is something that Steam had an issue with you know, trying to emulate the mouse-like movement on an analog stick. Like I said, I'm just trying to hit home that you cannot get the accuracy with an analog stick set to gyroscope. You have to set it to mouse. I have used so many different controllers. You cannot do it. The other thing too is this game playable like this? Yes, I can play it like this, but because of the freaking slow sensitivity and because of the slow accuracy, my right hand actually gets cramped up when I'm in these situations where I gotta shoot a lot and use the gyro, because I'm expecting the controller to move it to where I want it to go, and it's not moving, so I have to overcompensate to get it to go somewhere. So it's it's a very comfortable controller, but it's just not that accurate. And it's almost like I have to use the other stick to almost, walk into enemies in order to compensate for the shortcomings of the gyro. I'm not going to play this all the way through because I have other gameplay I'll show you, with it. But, given... I just really wanted to like this thing. And, it's from what I could tell and how the company is acting, because I emailed them and I said, hey, how can I get switch mode on this? And they said, oh, there's a very detailed information on their website about what it can and can't do. And they said if you want it to work with a Switch, buy this adapter. And that's what I did. I literally bought the adapter. Now, I'm going to talk about the adapter here because you get better accuracy with it. You do. It's a $20 adapter. Guess what? You actually get Switch functionality with it. Now, you'd think, oh, yeah, that'll solve all my problems. And that's what I thought, too. I said, that'll be great. It'll be great. I'll give it a shot. And for the most part, it almost did. It really almost did. That is until I started to compare it to their other controllers. And I'll get back into that once I show you some of the gyro gameplay with this in the adapter mode. But compared to this is way better. But yeah, I'll show you. So I already set the adapter. Once you get the adapter plugged in and stuff set up, it runs on Bluetooth for this thing, which is a switch back here. And once you switch it, it'll actually instantly turn on. Now, with Bluetooth mode, you don't get the polling rate. You get like a 125. That's pretty standard for most gyros now. And you could tell. You could really tell that there's a huge difference. And it just sucks. It just kind of sucks. You could switch between profiles for your RGB, but you don't really get the customization with it that you do with the 2.4 dongle that you do with Bluetooth. But you still get a proper gyroscope. I'll just show that to you. As you can see, the game has instantly picked up that it's a Switch controller now, and I've set everything up. And let me get to a lighted area here so you can see. So the Switch settings actually feels pretty good. It almost feels balls accurate compared to its own software. I was going to actually keep these things after I played with this because Rumble does work too. And that's something that was surprising because most of the time when you set these controllers up to Switch mode, you get lost of something. Rumble and Gyroscope does work. The other thing too is you do not get these buttons. You can't customize any of these when you do it like this. These are completely useless. Another foresight by the software, which sucks. But like I said, I didn't buy these to have another Switch controller. I already have one. So I'll show you right here. Left trigger down. And you can see that it's not jumping. It's not jumping like hardly at all. In fact, it's pretty accurate. It's a proper gyro and it's a lot more usable. Like this, I get more freaking, I could turn the sensitivity up, and if I wanted to, you get way more accuracy with it. The problem is it's still it still doesn't feel right to me. It almost feels like how a PlayStation controller feels with the gyroscope, and I tried like hell to get that to feel right. It just, there's a lag to it. Yeah, right now my hand is already cramping trying to use this thing like this. So there's some discrepancy. It just, you know, it's not as good, but it's usable. Like, you can play it, but it just, for me, there's a little bit of an accuracy delay from when I move it and when it actually gets to where I want it to go. That to me is not, it's not comfortable. It's not, because like I said, my right hand, this side actually cramps up, because especially during when I'm like going like this or holding the trigger trying to move this thing where I want it to go. And it's just a shame, another shame. Now, I'm going to compare this to this. I'm just going to shut this off. Actually, I'm just going to, you know, put it up on the charge dock because it shuts off on its own. Really cool feature. I love it. I love it. There's the other one. You know, when you lift it up, that's my girlfriend's profile. She loves green. But it's, you know, shuts off when you put it up. It's great. Like I said, this on the other hand, this is Bluetooth just by itself. I don't think it uses any other thing, but you can actually switch. You could switch the modes on it. Yeah, see, there's a switch, X input, D input, Apple. You could pretty much use this with almost anything. And if it wasn't for the fact of this thing being really tiny and being really weird to hold, this thing actually has better accuracy with the gyroscope in switch mode than the Ultimate 2 does. It blew me away because I bought this as kind of a, oh, that's kind of cool, it's on sale. I'm starting to play emulators again. Maybe I'll get some really good use out of it, and it'll just look kind of cool on my shelf. And this ended up being better. This ended up being a better controller feature-wise than the freaking Ultimate 2 did. And I'll show you some gameplay here with it. You know, I could play this without actually cramping up, because it's going where the controller is going. You know, the gyroscope is going where I want it to go. See? For the most part. Is it perfect? No. No. It's not. But it's a lot more fun to use this than the other one, because the other one just feels very laggy. It's, you know, it feels just the gyroscope and the sticks with the accuracy in general just feels so much better than the Ultimate 2. I don't know, maybe I could show you a little bit, but left trigger down, and I'm getting, look, I'm getting instant freaking feedback from it. You know, it's up, down. I'm not getting much lag. There's a little bit, you could tell, but it's a lot better than the other controller was. Now, I'm gonna keep this one because I like it. But the shortcomings of the Ultimate 2, you know, all it is an Xbox controller with LEDs. That's pretty much it, and a charge dock. I can't stand these YouTube videos that say you could do this, you could do that. It pisses me off because they don't directly advertise it as being something that it's not. But then again, they kind of advertise it as being an upgrade to something when it's not an upgrade. So I compared those two. I went back to this, and I know, and you know, you could tell I've been using it. Face buttons. This is not a premium controller, but Valve knows what they're doing with their software. I went back to this after trying both the SN30 Pro, which is an 8bitdo freaking product. You'd think that an older controller they had would have the same features as, you know, the newer ones, except the newer one should have more. I went back to this just to see how it'd feel, and I'm telling you, I got so much better accuracy with this. And yeah, it has a lower polling rate, but Valve seems to know what they're doing with their software. This thing feels so much better when it comes to trying to play with a gyroscope than anything else. In fact, I was so impressed by that after using those two that I bought a second one. And I think me and her are just going to use these for the time being, because when it comes to the software side, Valve is definitely knowing what they're doing with it. I know people hate this thing, but this whole experience over the past week has given me a newfound respect for this, just for the software. I can play emulators with this. Emulators actually see that this is a Hori pad. Most emulators don't, like, they'll see this if it's in Switch mode, but they can't see the Ultimate 2 unless it's in Xbox. It can't see nothing.